Hi, I'm Jacquelynn Lyon. I am the author of the Soft Landing Collection, which is a collection of sapphic short stories. I want to thank the Boulder Bookstore for inviting me to do this interview. I also work here, which is just a bonus.
Can you give us a very brief synopsis of your book?
So my book is a collection of 5 different short stories that are either fantasy or science fiction. The first one is called The Glass Window. It's about a mermaid trapped in a zoo. The second one is called Little Lights, which is about a floating continent and a girl on the ground trying to communicate with it. The third one is called The Bog Hag, which was a play on like a classic bog hag and princess dynamic. I had a lot of fun. The fourth one is called We Deserve a Soft Landing, and about doomed astronauts going to the moons of Jupiter. And the fifth one is called Flower Crown, and is about a princess who is cursed to grow flowers from her skin.
What inspired you to write the stories in this collection?
A variety of things. I wrote them at different periods in my life. The Glass Window was inspired actually by Ella Enchanted. I loved that book as a kid, and there is a zoo for magical creatures in that book that always stuck in my head. I was always wanting to go back there and explore what the implications of it. It also had some exploration of gender. At the time of my life, I felt very like, what does it mean? And kind of that aspect of femininity as an act of display and being in a zoo. Little Lights was inspired. I was on a road trip with my friends, and I remember just driving, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, and the stars came out, and they reminded me of lanterns. And I had just this idea of lanterns floating down from up above. And the others were more like plays on fairy tales, my twists on them. The doomed astronaut story was actually an online prompt. Someone sent me a prompt about a voyage that was going to end in tragedy. And I actually didn't really want to write it. I was like, I've never written a tragedy. What's the point? And then I was like, oh, this is really compelling. And I had a lot of fun writing it.
All of your stories feature romance. Did you set out to write fantastical sapphic stories, or did you start writing stories and found these romances demanded to be included?
I write what I like to read and what I want to see in the world. I kept looking and I couldn't find those type of stories, the romance with a focus either on sci-fi or fantasy, especially at the time. This was a decade ago, I started a lot of these stories. And so I think they were just iterations of like, I want to see these fantastical elements. Also I like romance. I like to see it. I like the stories with it. So.
Which do you find harder to write, the fantasy stories or the science fiction stories? Or is one more fun to write, or are they fun in different ways?
I'm definitely more drawn to fantasy. That's what I usually write and what I like comes naturally to me. But I do think I have more fun writing sci-fi. It's more of a challenge, and there's a lot of different ways to explore. Not in this collection, but I really like exploring xenobiology and different forms of evolution.
Can you tell us about your writing process?
I sit down and I go at it. Not completely true. It's changed over the years. At this point, I actually do a little writing meditation before I start, and I like to imagine what the scene will be like, what the feeling I'm going for. And I fiddle around. I do a lot of fiddling. And then I usually set a timer. I like to write for 45 minutes. And that's just because I also do a day job.
What are a couple of books you've read recently that you really loved?
Ooh, I have a number of them. Shout out to the last book in the Jasmine Throne series by Tasha Suri called The Lotus Empire. This is an epic fantasy sapphic story. If you like epic fantasy, if you like sapphic romance, please give it a try. It's one of my favorites. And this was the last book. One of the ones I just read, this is more just a beach read. It was called The Compound by Aisling Rao, and it's just a very, very fun reality TV show set in a dystopia. And I just flew through it. I think I cleaned half my house while listening. And the last one is actually a nonfiction called Otherlands. This is one of my favorite nonfictions of the last year. It goes through the different epochs in Earth history, starting from the last one all the way back to the first life on Earth. I was just so compelled by this. I really enjoyed it.
Is there anything else you want us to know about your book?
It's good.
All right. Can you read us a short passage from one of your stories?
Yeah. This is the beginning of We Deserve a Soft Landing, Love, year 2036. Astronauts really weren't supposed to be alone. Not at the space station. It wasn't made to run that way. 3 permanent residents were assigned at all times, and they were rarely alone. But mistakes happen. A gash the size of her forearm ran down his side, perfectly round, and red droplets hung in the air like ping-pong balls in suspended animation. A face as ashen as the grave and yelling. They never yelled. Sarah Reyes was chosen for her composed personality. Composed in theory, less so in practice. She watched her coworker burst open and heard NASA ringing in her ear, what do you even do with a dead body in space? But he wasn't gone yet. Thank you again to the Boulder Bookstore. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for interviewing me. I hope you can stop by. My book is on the recommendations shelf up in the ballroom if you'd like to stop by and get a copy.